Alright, I think I got the energy to talk about Smackdown now. So we're going to try to get into this, even though I really don't want to at this point in time. Smackdown has been a progressively worse show. Now, there's, of course, some highlights on this show. There's always at least one or two things to talk about. But on the whole, I would probably feel better doing a Evolve review than doing a review of Smackdown. At least there's funny things on that show. But let's get into this because I want to talk a little bit about what's going on with WrestleMania. And then we'll get into Smackdown. So, as everybody knows, it was announced that 2026 or WrestleMania 42 was going to take place in New Orleans. They had The Rock come out and he did like a Hot Boys, theme for his, and it was a big announcement. It was like 3 or 4 months ago. And then they decided, no. We're going to take it away. And the city of New Orleans basically called them out on it. And so it was like, wait, what do you mean? And so Triple H, right before SmackDown started, put out a statement saying that, yeah, we changed the pay-per-view schedule for next year. So New Orleans will now get Money in the Bank in 2026 and a WrestleMania to be named in the future. But they are most definitely not getting WrestleMania in 2026 as it was announced several months ago. Now, there's a lot wrong with this. Let's talk about this. This is like one of those really shitty sports trades, like a really shitty NFL trade or really shitty NBA trade, where you trade the number 1 overall draft pick for something in the later round and somebody else to be named later. It's like Money in the Bank is great. It's not WrestleMania though. Like this, and then it wasn't like a fair trade either. They didn't give him there's no fair trade for WrestleMania, but they didn't give him like Royal Rumble, right? Because they can't give him Royal Rumble because it's in Saudi. They can't. Well, could they give? I don't think they can even give him SummerSlam because they ended up yanking a WrestleMania from Minneapolis. What was that? A year or 2 ago, and they had to promise them SummerSlam. So Money in the Bank is the biggest show that they can give them after yanking away WrestleMania next year. TKO has been getting roasted for this. And look, does it make any difference to me as a person who is not going where WrestleMania is held? No. But to the fans in that region of the country where it would have been easy for them to get to WrestleMania if you lived in like Mississippi or Alabama or Texas or something like that, and you could have traveled to New Orleans for WrestleMania, then yeah, you probably do care. It probably does matter. Now, the replacement has yet to be announced. What city, state, or whatever will be hosting WrestleMania next year. It has not been announced. But the 2 favorites that I've seen so far is Saudi Arabia, where they will probably dump hundreds of millions of untold oil money on WWE in order to get WrestleMania. Or, and this is the more likely option, they'll go back to Las Vegas. And then a story comes out that says that WWE wants to run more shows in Las Vegas. And I just see Nick Khan's jowls grinning at the idea. FanDuel go brrr. I'm just like, Las Vegas. I said this before. I think I said it even on the live stream. Nick Khan is trying to. There is something in a rumble in the industry, all of these industries, that are trying to force Las Vegas to be a sports town It's a tourist town. All right. People come and go. You know, almost nobody lives in Las Vegas. And this is a fact, right? Like, it can be one of the places that you can have host WrestleMania, but Las Vegas becoming like the new Madison Square Garden is like, I don't think it has the population to support that. I don't think WrestleMania this year, and some people are saying like, well, they did great numbers this year at WrestleMania. Like, yeah, WrestleMania is always going to do great. I think essentially telling everybody, well, Las Vegas is the new most important market for our product is probably not smart. I mean, it's the same goofy error that Tony Khan made when he basically told everybody Chicago was AEW's number one market. And then he went and started blowing it out of proportion. Just kept going back to Chicago. Now they're about to do a residency at Chicago. It's excessive. It's going to burn out. Now, Chicago does have the population where they could, consistently support a product. But there's only so many times people are going to go to these shows. And when you talk about WWE, these shows are so expensive. Like, again, Las Vegas is already a tourist, so everything is already more expensive than it normally would be. And then you have a tourist attraction in WrestleMania. No wonder these people are spending $30,000, $40,000 on hotels and Ubers and dinner and all this kind of stuff. Like, it's nonsense. It's nonsense. So I don't have a dog in the fight in where WrestleMania is held. I just do think that it sucks for the fans who were planning to go. And they say, hey, going from, Alabama to New Orleans is a lot different from going from Alabama to Nevada. It's a completely different kettle of fish. It's a different part of the country. It's very difficult and then also you do want to spread the event around. Yes, sometimes they do have WrestleMania in back-to-back venues. I don't know why that argument started. It's like, yes, it has happened before. Jonathan Coachman jumped in and had all of these things to say about it. It's like, so what? They have a show back-to-back in the same venue in the same place. So what? The issue here isn't that they're running WrestleMania back-to-back in the same city. The issue here is they announced one thing, took it away, and then told them you're going to get a pay-per-view that is not of the same caliber. That's the problem here. And then here's another issue. And this is just an issue for me and maybe a couple of other people. But they announced that Money in the Bank will be August the 29th next year. August 29th? Money in the Bank in the fall? Why is it so late in the year? I don't... This is the thing that is kicking me in the ass. They want to start these traditions, but they don't want to keep these things up. I don't know what Nick Khan is doing, because he's doing all this. Triple H is getting all the heat, but he's not the one booking the venues and doing all... He's not doing that stuff. That's Nick Khan, right? Nick Khan is deciding that the Royal Rumble needs to be in February, and we need to have a WrestleMania damn near in May. And now Money in the Bank needs to take place in almost September, which is like, this is around the time SummerSlam should be occurring. So when is SummerSlam next year? October 10th or some shit like that? Maybe they'll do SummerSlam and Money in the Bank in the same year. The same month. Which, of course, I don't see the point in that. There's no stability. There's no way you can say, well, it's, Money in the Bank season. When it comes to wrestling, and I said this before, traditions exist and they give people something to build anticipation on. And this is what wrestling fans enjoy, right? Even if they don't enjoy the matches, sometimes they enjoy getting caught up in the rapture of the season. Like, back a couple of years ago, people used to be super excited for like the Best of Super Juniors, which is going on right now. And when it was about to start, you would see a lot of people get really excited for it. The same thing for the G1 tournaments in New Japan. People get excited around December because now it's time for the Royal Rumble. If you tell people don't get excited because you don't know when the hell is going to happen this year, instead of the Royal Rumble is happening in January next year, we can start talking about it in October. You know, if it ain't gonna happen till February, we got to sit through all of this just to get there to the same event. And there's no good reason why it couldn't happen in January. You know, like it's not like there was a worldwide pandemic where we had to break tradition and it had to be in February. You know, just no reason for it. And it disrupts people's enjoyment of the product. Just like you announce something that's yearly and then it's not yearly anymore. They just did this with Crown Jewel. They announced these Crown Jewel championships that are going to be given every year. This year's Crown Jewel 2025 will not be in Saudi Arabia. What the fuck was the point of you announcing that there's going to be Crown Jewel championships and there's going to be this Crown Jewel champion versus champion bragging rights thing? And then the very next year, it's not in Saudi Arabia. I think it's in Australia this year. I just checked. Yes, it is. It's in Perth, Australia in 2025. So you lead people to think that King of the Queen of the Ring is going to be yearly. Nope. Not going to be, because there's no King or Queen of the Ring announced this year. Who knows? They may pull one out of their ass. They told you that Crown Jewel was going to be a yearly event in Saudi Arabia. Nope. They pulled it from Saudi Arabia and they've given it to Australia. Now, they still may do the stupid Crown Jewel championships, but I don't see what the point will be because those titles stayed in Saudi Arabia to be awarded again next year. And then they announced that WrestleMania was going to be in New Orleans. And then 3 months later, we changed our mind. I mean, I don't get it. I don't know what TKO is doing, but it is screwing around with the enjoyment, and it means that you can't trust anything that they're saying because these things are being yanked back and forth by corporate suits who don't really care that much about what the fans think. Yes, sometimes it's the fans' fault because they celebrated how much money the company makes and how well the company is doing, which I think is not a bad thing to do. A lot of wrestling fans hate that. Why are you guys supporting how well the company does? Because we like the company and we would like to see the company continue. I know you guys don't care that, this favorite 5-star match is, not widely available because the company went out of business 3 months later. But we actually do care about that kind of stuff. We would like for there to be WrestleManias every year. We would like for there to be Royal Rumbles every year. Yes, one or two of them, some of them might be bad or some of them might not work out, but at least there'll be one next year. According to these guys, would rather have a 5-star match now and the company not exist in 2 years, which to me is stupid. But that's how some people think. But fans do get too wrapped up into that stuff, and then they start getting abused. And I think that the TKO thing is, to a degree, abusive. Cutting house shows, basically telling some markets you're not important enough. Raising prices and then kind of just being like, well, we're seeing good returns on these prices. Even when fans are saying like, man, why am I spending $30,000 on WrestleMania? That's insane. Only certain people can do that. Well, now you see that they're changing forcefully the demographic. They're not following the demographic. They're forcefully changing the demographic. And I'm talking about the demographic of the fan. Pro wrestling is for the lower caste of society. It always has been for people at the middle of the map. Pro wrestling has always been stronger in the South and in places, you know, where there's usually lower income people, you know, and now they're trying to force it to be this big NFL, NBA type of mainstream sport, which is why they're bringing in all these celebrities and stuff. I don't know if the fad element that it creates, I don't think you can perpetuate forever. Rather than having a dedicated wrestling audience trying to overload, not even with casuals, but just tourists. Like, a casual will at least follow the product to a degree. You're talking about a tourist that's only going to show up just to see what the hell's going on, then turn around and go the other way. Tourists don't live at the attraction. They stop by, have some fun, and then they leave. You know? Like, this is worse than being a casual. Where they're creating a third tier of wrestling fan, which is higher income tourist wrestling fans, because everybody else is priced out. The idea of simply taking your kid to a wrestling show, a WWE show, has become a pipe dream for so many people. And back then, you know, 20 years ago or so, taking your kid to see John Cena or Randy Orton was a big deal. In 15 years, your kid will not be able to go see John Cena or Randy Orton or Roman Reigns or Seth Rollins, because none of them will be there. And then, because of the schedules of some of the talent, even if they were still able to wrestle, they might not show up anyway. Because as we sit here today, CM Punk shows up at the end of every Raw. Well, every other Raw. John Cena doesn't show up every week. Randy Orton doesn't show up every week. So you're asking people to pay, and this, of course, also to the cities of these events. You're trying to trick them thinking that The Rock is going to be there. You're trying to trick them into thinking Cena's going to be there. And then they pay you all this money for these events, and no fucking stars show up to these events. Guys, Cody ain't working this show. Then why the fuck is he on the poster? Why did you try to use somebody like him to get the city to give you all this money, and then, well, he's not there. We didn't write him into a storyline or whatever. If I were the city, I'd sue you. If John Cena is on your roster and I paid you to have this show and you didn't bring John Cena, I'd fucking sue you. Because what was the point of me paying you? If I were in the audience and I'm paying all this money for these tickets and half the fucking stars my kid wants to see don't show up, I'm not coming back. So, I don't understand what TKO is trying to do and what they're trying to get out of this, outside of money. And I saw a clip from some podcaster, I don't know who he is, but he was talking about TKO basically gutting the UFC and killing the UFC. Now, I do have my own thoughts about what's going on with the UFC. I think part of that is fighters from other countries like Dagestan or Uzbekistan being the best fighters, and Americans don't care about that kind of shit. We didn't care about that kind of stuff when it was in boxing. We don't care about that shit in the NBA. If foreigners are at the top and we don't relate to them, we don't watch it. So that's part of what's going on with the UFC. The other part is the fact that TKO is overloading the product with mid-card fighters that nobody wants to see. The stars are sitting at home doing nothing. They refuse to pay them, so they will fight, you know, who the fans want them to fight. And they would rather run shows in the Apex than pay for a decent venue. It's almost getting there to WWE. Now, again, they've only had WWE for 3 years. Once they get comfortable and, you know, it's 10 years in, they may start having WrestleMania at the Performance Center, you know, just to save money. That seemed to be the direction that we're heading. But at least they get rights fees and all this kind of stuff. It's maybe I'm exaggerating, but they have sapped all the fun out of the UFC. But at least the same guy who was running UFC 20 years ago is the same guy running UFC today. You know, it's a different regime completely in WWE right now. So these people who are completely ignoring what made it work, and it's unfortunate, man. I spent way too much time on this, but I wanted to tap into a lot of different elements of this same issue. So it's unfortunate, but we're gonna. It sucks for people in New Orleans. You know, it sucks for the people who were planning to go to New Orleans, but not getting WrestleMania. Well, I guess you'll get a WrestleMania to be named later. I guess you got an IOU from TKO. Let's see how good let's see how good it is. But it was bad business on their part to announce to the fans and announce to the city that they were going to do this and then change it. It was just bad business. All right, let's get into this show. I don't really want to talk too much about the show. So Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre were fighting to start the show. They continued to fight throughout the show. They're having a cage match on Saturday night's main event. It ought to be one of the highlights of the show. I don't expect too much of it because they really watered down Damian Priest. He's one of the guys that he's not that over, so he should certainly be working more, and he should definitely be out there more. He should be talking more. Also, I don't like the idea that Damian Priest talks very stilted. I'm not a big fan of his promo style. He needs to be a little bit more natural. But he's not featured enough for me, you know. But Drew McIntyre, of course, is super over. They say he's working with an injury, so maybe the cage match will be pretty tame. Also, it's going to be on national television, so it more likely be tame anyway. Tiffany Stratton, she's talking about the Money in the Bank. Then she's interrupted by Alexa Bliss. Alexa Bliss says that Tiffany Stratton caught her eye when she beat Charlotte Flair. Then she says she actually felt bad for Charlotte a little bit, but then it's hard to feel sorry for a narcissist. Then Alexa Bliss says that she also cashed in Money in the Bank and she defeated Nia Jax. I don't remember that. I remember her winning Money in the Bank. I don't remember her cashing in on Nia Jax. She says that she likes Nia, but she doesn't know Tiffany Stratton. And she's going to bring Tiffany Stratton's downfall when she wins Money in the Bank. Charlotte interrupts all of this, says that Tiffany Stratton's run won't last forever, and that she's won everything in the WWE except Money in the Bank, and she's back to take back her title and her spotlight. Tiffany Stratton said that Charlotte was a hypocrite because she said winning Money in the Bank was a cheap way of winning, and now here she is going to qualify for Money in the Bank. Then she said that Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair are a little vintage and that she is the upgrade. This is insane verbiage. Okay. She didn't call them old. She called them vintage. She didn't call them old. She implied that they were antiques. Like grandfather clocks. The crazy thing is, Alexa she's like 10 years older, maybe 7 or 8 years older than Tiffany Stratton, and Charlotte's a full decade plus older than Tiffany Stratton. And they got both put in the same vintage category. Notice WrestleMania season, they didn't mention how old Charlotte was at all. They avoided that. But as soon as they put Alexa Bliss in there, all of a sudden, oh yeah, you're all very old. The humorous thing about this is the second time in 2 weeks somebody has called Alexa Bliss old. That was funny. That was a good one. And they both stood there kind of dumbfounded by the whole ordeal. Okay, so Charlotte had her Money in the Bank qualifying match against Zelina Vega and Julia. One of the better matches on the night. Zelina Vega tried very hard, but she's very small, man. She's super small. And the crowd, not really into Julia. Part of that is because she's very new. This is her first match. But they cared about Charlotte because everybody expected Charlotte to win. They did a very traditional triple threat finish with Charlotte having Zelina in the figure eight. Then Julia breaks it up with a top rope stomp. Charlotte rolls out of the ring. Julia hits the Northern Lights bomb on Zelina Vega and pins Zelina Vega, who is the United States champion. And she got beat in this match. Oh, brother. This led to a lot of people really complaining a lot about Zelina being the one to take the pin. I kind of suspected it. You know, I thought Julia would lose. I'm not even gonna lie. But somebody's got to take the pin. Shit. You know, somebody's got to take the pin. And then they can always loop back to this later. I don't think Julia will win Money in the Bank. I think this was just to establish her as a talent that's on that level. And she will likely be looped back into this thing later, and it'll probably be some kind of Zelina Vega match where, you know, Zelina Vega probably will lose again because I don't think they care that much about her. And she might have been one of the least over people in this match, next to Julia. And part of that is because the presentation for Zelina is not good. Her theme song isn't even recognizable. Like, I hear it pretty regularly, and I still, even right now, am not sure who is coming out when that theme song starts. They have not been doing Zelina Vega any favors. None. She got mocked by Chelsea Green, who looked like goddamn Andre the Giant standing next to her. It might have been the boots. Then they jumped to Zelina, her and Piper Niven and Alba Fyre. I refuse to call them the Secret Harvest. That sounds stupid, right? It just sounds stupid in my mouth, so I'm not going to say it. But I'm just going to call them Piper and Alba. They all jumped to Zelina Vega. Zelina Vega got some backup in B-Fab and Mia Yim, which set up a tag team match for later on this evening, where B-Fab and Mia Yim actually beat them. And Zelina Vega helped them win. I was dumbfounded that the fact that B-Fab won a match. I could not believe that. It seemed almost unreal that B-Fab has been back in WWE in what? This is like her third year back. I think this might have been the first time she's pinned anybody since she's been in WWE. And I'm talking since even back in the days of NXT 2.0. I don't think she beat anybody then. I think this might have been the first time I've ever seen B-Fab win a match. I'm almost certain this is the first time I've ever seen her win a match. So, Alba Fyre, who was at one point in time, of course, a long-running women's champion in WWE, being the first person to get pinned by B-Fab, is pretty entertaining. It's pretty funny. And I kept thinking about how decent of a tag team these two could be if they weren't so silly. But Chelsea Green is what's keeping them interesting. Because if they weren't with Chelsea Green, who would give a shit about these two people? I don't think anybody would. Because Chelsea Green, during this match, got jumped and beat up by Zelina Vega, they announced that Zelina Vega will defend the Women's United States title against Chelsea Green at Saturday night's main event. And they slipped that on the card because women were complaining, and by women I should just mean some men too, were complaining that there was no women's match announced for Saturday night's main event. And so they're like, okay, shut the fuck up. And they threw Zelina and Chelsea on the show. It is what it is. You know, it just is what a TI is, man. The second match on the show was Chris Sabin versus Tommaso Ciampa. And I wanted to go just lay in the grass. You know, I'm allergic to freshly cut grass. I just wanted to go lay in the grass. Chris Sabin is on WWE TV in 2025. Chris Sabin. I think when it comes to the world record of knee surgeries, it's Rey Mysterio, then Chris Sabin, right? I think they're neck and neck, and who's going to have more knee surgeries. And here he is on WWE TV in a singles match. I thought I'd never see this. This might not even be his first singles match on WWE TV, but it feels like it is. And this match went long. Then again, whenever I don't want to see something or I don't care about it, it always feels long. This feels like it was long as hell. Tommaso Ciampa cut a promo saying that DIY is feeling the Motor City Machine Guns breathing down their back, that Fraxium's calling themselves a top tag team and they're delusional, and that something needs to change here. Something's got to change. And you know what the big change was? They put Candice LeRae with DIY because they had Candice LeRae distract the referee. Well, no, Tommaso Ciampa distracted the referee so Candice LeRae could cheat and Tommaso Ciampa could win this match. Both of these guys are on the other side of the hill, and I'm not interested. I don't care. Like, I don't care about these people. And I know WWE is trying to force it on me, but I don't. I don't care about DIY, and I don't care about Motor City Machine Guns, and I don't think anybody does. All these people do is wrestle. That's all they do. I don't know when Triple H decided that being a personality is not important anymore. But there's not a single personality in this entire situation here. Candice LeRae doesn't even have a personality. So it's not like they added some charisma to this angle. They didn't add anything. You know? Like, I don't get it. Like, my goodness. This seems excessive. It's almost abusive that they would give these people so much time and then threaten to give them more. Well, you know, they probably don't have to put some kind of woman with Motor City Machine Guns so they could do a 6-person tag. I wonder who that's going to be. We'll just have to sit back and wait and see. But I'm sure this is all going to be very riveting material. We're going to bring loads of laughs or drama. No, they're just going to have more wrestling matches. Just more boring wrestling matches. So, thankfully, you know, the boring bastards, they won't be alone in this angle. Fraxium versus the Street Profits. They had the championship match to close the show. The match is thrown out because the Wyatt 6 show up. And before we get to the Wyatt 6, let's talk about Fraxium. So, Fraxium cut a promo. That this is the biggest night of their lives and that the Street Profits are just a stepping stool on their path to greatness. Then the Street Profits said that this is not going to be no friendly exhibition, and at the moment it's too big for Fraxium. They then got stared down by Solo, JC, Mateo, and Jacob Fatu. So they're teasing that Solo and JC Mateo are going to end up challenging for the tag team titles, which is interesting. And then they introduced the Wyatt 6. So they're trying their best to elevate the tag team division. And I appreciate the effort. I really do. So the Wyatt 6 come in, they beat up everybody because DIY was out there. The Motor City Machine Guns were out there. Fraxium is still out there. Street Profits are out there. And the Wyatt 6 just wipes the floor with everybody. Nikki even beats up Candice. And this is all happening on Bray Wyatt's birthday. So they got a big Bray Wyatt tribute. Also, this is the day that Hana Kimura, the Japanese female pro wrestler, she killed herself, and she was Julia's friend. And Julia got to do a tribute for Hana Kimura earlier in the night. And so now the Wyatt 6 are doing a tribute to Bray Wyatt in the main event of the show. It was all very fitting. Now, look, here's the thing. The Wyatt 6 being in the tag team division, I don't have a problem with this. I think this is good. You can elevate the tag team championships by putting more people in the division and making the division more interesting. DIY, Motor City Machine Guns, Signs, personality. Nobody cares about these people. All right. People do care about the Wyatt 6 to a degree. Only to a degree. But they need to do some of the fun stuff that the Wyatt 6 do. Right? You know, they need to be personalities. Larger than life. And people will be interested in it. Solo and JC, I don't know. Solo at least has a personality. And two big dudes, you could put them in a tag team division, and that could be fun. So the tag team division is getting a nice little boost here. I appreciate the effort. I don't know how long it's going to be able to go, before they have to iron it out and somebody has to, start losing matches here and then the hierarchy forms. But at least they're trying to put some effort in. The tag division has been a joke for a long time, a really long time. And I expected that Fraxium might win the titles here because the tag team division sucks and they want to establish a new tag team. Because this is what they did with the Motor City Machine Guns, right? And it's also what they did with, I think, Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu. They put the belts on them almost immediately as a way to try to inject some energy into this languishing tag team division. But this time, they actually did something smart by not taking the belts off the Street Profits, who the people actually like, even though I don't think anybody likes their theme song. Everybody likes their previous theme song. It was a actually vastly superior theme song, and I don't know why they changed it. But the Street Profits are the best tag team in WWE, bar none, including Fraxium. And you bring in, I know everybody thinks Fraxium is the best, but no, the Street Profits are a much better tag team than Fraxium. Fraxium just runs around and does flips and shit. Like, they do very dramatic breakups of pinfalls and such. But when it comes to actually putting a tag team match together, the Street Profits are much better than they are. And they're not boring, like the Motor City Machine Guns, who most people may think is one of the greatest tag teams of all time. Well, they're boring. I don't care how good you are if you're boring. In any event, bringing in JC and Solo, I'm going to assume that's going to be the two that's going to be involved in this, could really add some meat to the tag team division. And it's not just the midgets running around in a circle tag division, right? Now, yes, JC and Solo are wide guys. They're not exactly tall guys, but it's fine. It's fine. You can get a decent run out of some tag team championships. And since Solo is an important player on the roster, he could elevate the tag team championships. They actually do care somewhat about Solo. Yes, they always beat Solo, but he is a fixture on the show. Now, in talking about this, of the teams that I'm looking at here, I'm thinking JC and Solo are probably the longest, strongest tag team that you can work with. I think that the Wyatts are a special attraction. I think they can elevate the tag team division, especially if you don't have anything else for them. There is a lot of questions about, hey, we thought that the Wyatts and Alexa Bliss were going to be working together. Well, there's nothing that says that they aren't, right? At least as of right now. And then if Alexa Bliss doesn't win, then you could put her and Nikki in the tag team division on the women's side. And then you could have two sets of Wyatt 6, if that's your preference. I don't know why it would be, but I mean, some people like that kind of thing, right? But I look at this whole Wyatt, thing as, I look at it as an attraction. I don't think it's an every week thing. I don't think you overexpose them too much. I do think that some of the costuming looks kind of silly, but what can you do? It's a tribute band. They're doing the best that they can. So I like what they're doing with the tag team division. They're going to have to sort things out eventually, but it's at least a good start. So to the question of Solo, JC, and Jacob, they had a conversation earlier in the night where Solo wanted Jacob and JC on the same page, and Jacob wanted to talk to Solo personally, one-on-one, and Solo's like, no, anything you can say to me, you can say in front of him. And so Jacob says he don't know, like, or trust JC Mateo, because he ain't his blood, he ain't his family. So Solo says that, okay, yeah, I get that, but, I'm your family, and, everything's going to work out great, right? He says that we want Jimmy back, Big Brother Jimmy, you got to bring him back into the fold. And for some reason, Phoenix is there as well. And I'm like, Phoenix? Okay. So, JC Mateo and Jacob Fatu versus Phoenix and him, Big Jim Uso. Jimmy Uso and Rey Fenix are fun tag team. They're both tag team specialists, so they work very well together. Their promo before the match was fun too. They're just both high energy baby faces, which is pretty funny. But they're not traditional high energy baby faces. Well, Phoenix kind of is. I thought Phoenix was going to lose this match. And the reason why I thought Phoenix was going to lose this match is because he started going to absolute work on Jacob Fatu. He was doing all sorts of bouncing off the rope shit, all sorts of hurricanranas. I'm like, man, he about to get pinned. There ain't no way in the world they about to let this skinny dude do all this stuff to Jacob. He taking all these bumps for this guy. There's just no way. I was surprised when it was JC Mateo that pinned Jimmy Uso. I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. This was one of the better things on the show as well. Not a must-see, but it was a fun outing for Phoenix. And, of course, Jacob Fatu was always a pleasure. But JC Mateo, yeah, right. Get lost. Who cares about this man here? Later in the show, we're told that Jacob Fatu is going to be given one of the final spots in the Money in the Bank qualifier for next week. So we were also told that Carmelo Hayes got one of the spots, and then the other spot is Andrade, who they just threw in there. They didn't give him no special announcement or anything like that. They said, oh yeah, but they did it. They built story around the other two, and then there's Andrade, who just seems very random and slipped into here. So the story when it comes to Carmelo Hayes and The Miz is that it was The Miz's idea to put Carmelo Hayes in the triple threat match. And Nick Aldis says only one of you can be in. So The Miz says, well, I wanted to give it to Carmelo. And he wants Carmelo to listen to him. He wants Carmelo to trust him. And The Miz went as far as to give Carmelo Hayes his spot in the Money in the Bank. And says that he believes in him. And I thought this was all very sweet. And they're slowly but surely going to turn The Miz babyface. And he's going to likely end up feuding with Carmelo. Because Carmelo is still very selfish. And he still wants to do his own thing. So I thought this was very nice. This was very good. And then, of course, Jacob Fatu in the Money in the Bank. And Solo was very excited for him. Thinking, like, hey, we could both be in it. And Jacob like, I love you, Solo. And so fucking Solo. And then Solo was like, you ain't said that in like 6 minutes. I love you too, man. I was like, oh my God. This dude's he's a silly dude, man. He's one of those born to dilly-dally, forced to lock in types of people. But he's funny. So the men's Money in the Bank next week, man, my goodness. You kind of have to put Carmelo in it. I mean, personally, I would probably go with Andrade, who I think is probably more ready for a top spot. But he's not in an angle. Well, he is in an angle. He's in an angle with Legado del Fantasma, which they kind of forgot already. They forgot it already. It's already been dropped, I guess. Well, this hasn't been dropped. It's been postponed, maybe. I don't know. We'll figure it out when we get there, I guess. Maybe Road Dogg knows what he's doing. Maybe he don't. I don't know. These are all Road Dogg ideas, okay? In any event, Andrade is probably the most main event ready of these guys. But he's probably one of the least over because he hasn't been used in any way outside of a mechanic. So since Jacob has the U.S. belt, it'll probably be better to put Carmelo over in that match. Now, they consistently do this, which is really weird, is that they'll take a third party and just shove it into a pre-existing feud. Like Carmelo Hayes and Andrade had a best of 7 matches or whatever the hell, and now they just decide, we're going to throw Jacob Fatu in their best of 7. Just like they threw LA Knight in their best of 7 not too long ago. It's so goddamn lazy. It's so goddamn stupid. And they insist on doing it. They insist. I don't get it. It's ridiculous. And they did it again with the Naomi, Jade Cargill, and Nia Jax Money in the Bank qualifying match. They did it again. They don't have to be in the same match. They don't have to. They could be in the same Money in the Bank match. You could put them both in the Money in the Bank match. And then that would add some heat to the Money in the Bank match. But they put it in the qualifiers. Which, whatever. Anyway. I would go with Andrade personally. But they're not doing anything with him. So I'm going to go with Carmelo winning. Now, they did a segment, of course, a vignette. I just talked about it. Naomi and Jade Cargill are going to be in a Money in the Bank qualifier with Nia Jax. To me, I think Nia Jax is a waste of a spot. She just wrestled for the title, and she just lost. That's a spot you could have given to somebody else. But they wanted to try to continue the story because Nia Jax had some level of involvement, or Naomi, or I think Jade and Nia wrestled, or something just happened between these people. So they want to have some continuity. So they want to put Nia Jax in this angle, and I don't care about this. As soon as you put Nia Jax in it, I stopped caring. Naomi and Jade have not had a second match. They've only had the one match so far. I think you probably should be building up to another match between the two of them outside of this silly triple threat thing. But if you're going to put a third person in there, then Nia Jax being the one is not for me. But I do think Jade winning is the best option because I think Jade is the right option. I know there's a lot of Naomi fans out there, but Naomi is on the other side of the hill. This is a decent presentation of Naomi. She's doing a good job, even though she's very cartoonish in how heelish she is. And she's very cartoonish. But I think all of this should be trying to elevate Jade and take Jade to the next level. Because she is the important element here. She's the superstar. And when it comes to all the women in the match right now, Jade is the most ready for the world title. And I would go with Jade, personally. But this is Road Dogg and Triple H and all these bums. Who the hell knows? It'll probably be Nia Jax again. Now, since we're talking about Money in the Bank, let's get out there with the men's Money in the Bank qualifier for the evening. Aleister Black versus Shinsuke Nakamura versus L.A. Knight. Yeah. Now, some decent stuff here. Yes, there was a long-term feud between L.A. Knight and Shinsuke Nakamura, and they just decided to slide Aleister Black in the middle of this thing. Oh, God, Road Dogg and Triple H are so boring. Anyway, you have some interesting exchanges between Aleister Black and Shinsuke Nakamura, where they got to do some of their old man martial arts. That was okay. The finish was a typical triple threat finish. LA Knight steals the win from Aleister Black after the black mass on Shinsuke Nakamura. He just grabs him and throws him out of the ring. LA Knight wins the match, is the favorite to win the Money in the Bank. It's according to people online. There is a groundswell, and has been for 2 years, for LA Knight to finally take it to the next level. And I am willing to join that parade. Looking at the World Heavyweight Championship picture over on Raw, LA Knight is needed. He is desperately needed on Raw. I think part of the problem with LA Knight is that he's a babyface. He needs to turn heel. And I think turning LA Knight heel is your best option. He's been a babyface for over a year, and it slowed his growth. It slowed his momentum. I think this is a heel character. I think he works better as a heel. I think a heel LA Knight versus Jey Uso could be money. I like that idea. Do I think he could work against John Cena? I don't think this is John Cena's last year. Probably not a good idea. All right. But John Cena's wrestling R-Truth. So who knows, right? But I think LA Knight's big future is as a top level heel, not as a cocky Rock-esque babyface. I just don't think that's going to work out for him. But the other two guys, well, okay, sure. Nakamura was just in this thing to lose. Who really cares? So, since we're talking about R-Truth had a promo segment here. And he got wetted a lot, which is not a surprise. But Truth cut a promo that was actually very coherent. And it kind of just... It put me in a weird space because R-Truth is, instead of being the sort of comedy goofball, he's being very deep. He's being very reflective, I think. So he talks about John Cena, and this John Cena who attacked him is not somebody that he can recognize, because the John Cena that he knows is all about hustle, loyalty, respect, and it's his childhood hero. He said he blamed himself thinking about how he could have prevented this. But in reality, the John Cena's problem is that it's all about power. And the more power Cena has, the less connected he felt. You know, fewer texts, stopped answering his phone. Cena isolated himself with power. And it's not just a championship, it's Cena's ego. And he said Cena's not having fun anymore. He doesn't believe John Cena is happy. And he's going to try to bring him back, because he will not let John Cena steal his joy. If he said he doesn't want to fight John Cena, but if he has to fight John Cena to protect his joy and to save John Cena, he's going to beat the hustle, loyalty, and respect right back into his ass, because he misses his hero. And I was like, man, R-Truth in this story is the voice of the guy who was a small child when John Cena became a big star. And it's supposed to parallel that over time. You know, Cena becomes less connected to the audience. He becomes less frequent on the show the more money and power and success he attained in Hollywood. And this is what R-Truth is trying to express here. And I think he did so decently. He put it in a friendly context to like, oh yeah, me and John were like brothers, and then he started getting more successful and we became disconnected. As a fan, that's how you're supposed to feel too. You're supposed to say, well, John Cena, you know, was always there. He was always Mr. WWE. And then he started getting more Hollywood stuff, and he started seeing him less and less. And then when he showed up, he started doing less and less. And now he's completely detached from wrestling, and he wants to destroy and ruin wrestling, and he's attacking the fans. You know, it's supposed to be, this is John Cena's character arc here since he went Hollywood. It's pretty effective coming from R-Truth, but it's R-Truth ultimately. And that's the problem. You know, I don't think anybody takes R-Truth seriously. After 3 or 4 years of, not even 3 or 4 years, 10 years of him being a comedic character, of him being sort of the comedy goofball, one promo is not going to change people's minds. It's not going to change people's opinions. You can't change people's opinions after 2 or 3 weeks when this guy's been an absolute nutcase for 10 years. It's just not enough time. It's not enough time has passed by for people to take R-Truth seriously. I appreciate that they tried it. I appreciate that they tried to say, well, R-Truth is going to try to explain why he wants to fight John Cena. But ultimately, it's R-Truth, and we're not expecting a whole lot out of this match. We're not expecting it to be very competitive, and we're certainly not expecting R-Truth to win. So they can at least give us a decent reason, and I think they at least did that. At least there is a decent reason. I think Triple H is trying to make R-Truth a smarter character as well. I don't know why. Also, before I leave the subject of R-Truth, a lot of the woke wrestling fans found the R-Truth clip from, what was this, 2011 or 2012, when he was dressed like a Confederate soldier. And they were running around saying, oh man, Swerve was right. Look at what they did to R-Truth. Like, for starters, learn your history. There were black Confederate troops. Okay, that's the first problem. You're so woke you don't know your history. There were black Confederate troops. There are black men today who fly the Confederate flag and have the Confederate flag on their hats. Culturally, R-Truth is from North Carolina, which is a Confederate state. He probably did not care about wearing a Confederate outfit. He probably didn't give a shit. I know that all this stuff is spank brand new to people who are 17, or maybe you just started watching wrestling because of the Bloodline or whatever. You didn't see this stuff before. But R-Truth has done a wide range of ridiculous things. And WWE has done a wide range of ridiculous things. And people have been combing WWE history looking for things to be offended about. From Vince McMahon saying that Sabu was a member of the Taliban, which I completely forgot. And I laughed my ass off when I saw that clip, by the way. But then I laugh at all this stuff anyway. Like, you can't change history. Even if you don't like it, you can't change history. Being upset about it really only ruins your enjoyment of the product. And I don't look at it as any sort of personal slight on the performers either, because we assume that they didn't have a problem with it. It was 15 fucking years ago. Like it's a lifetime ago. Nobody cares about R-Truth being dressed like a Confederate soldier. In fact, most people didn't even remember it because it's one of the many humorously hilarious things that R-Truth has done. And maybe, I don't even remember the context of him being dressed like a Confederate soldier. I don't even remember it. But when people go back and they start looking for blackface moments or Vince or somebody else saying something offensive, it just goes to show that they're very young, impressionable, and they think you should have been offended by these things because I'm offended by them now. When most people didn't care about that stuff, wasn't even thinking about it. Or it was presented in a way that was ironic or whatever. I don't even understand. I don't remember what the context was of him dressed like a Confederate soldier. But I certainly wasn't offended when I saw it. So it didn't matter to me. And also, when you have in the high arts, quote unquote, people doing race play, and I mean, pretending to be slaves in gay relationships with the slave master or something like that, and this is on Broadway or whatever. When I see black people dressed as slaves for their own graduation, and when I mean dressed as slaves, I mean dingy t-shirts, torn jeans, no shoes, at their own graduation in 2025. What are you doing? And we're talking about R-Truth being dressed like a Confederate soldier? No, we're not going to do that. Let's leave R-Truth alone. All right. R-Truth is a funny character. He does ridiculous things, and dressing like a Confederate soldier is just one of the silly things that he's done. Who cares? That's like you seeing Dave Chappelle dressed like a Klansman, completely out of context, not knowing what's going on, and then choosing to get upset. Shut the fuck up. All right. There's only one more thing to talk about on this show, I guess. Oh, two more things. They did a Bianca Belair promo segment, a vignette, because she's coming back next week, which ought to be great. Just in time to not be in the women's Money in the Bank match. So that means she's going to be doing something else. So Bianca said she had a challenging 6 months. She lost friends, lost at WrestleMania, and lost championships, and she got injured. And she said she won't let these challenges define her, but she had the idea of giving up. I'm like, what? Like, you this is the first time you face any real challenge in your entire career, and you talking about giving up. Are you serious? Anyway, she said her best is yet to come, which is weird because this almost comes across like she was gone for months. She was gone for like a month, like her first real injury in wrestling. And it's like she injured her finger. One finger was like, I think, broken or something. This is her first, like, they built this vignette like she had to be rebuilt. She injured one finger. Okay, let's not get too dramatic about this, okay? All right, so the last thing here is the Legado del Fantasma reveal, where Santos Escobar tells Berto that he got them a 6-man match at Worlds Collide. And he put it in interesting terms by saying us versus their best, quote unquote, their best in front of our people, quote unquote, our people. Our people in California? I know that there's a lot of Hispanics out there, but our people is Mexicans. They're not in Mexico. It's in California. This is still our people. These are still Americans here. And none of these people in this match are American. None of them. They're all Mexican. All of them. So their opponents will be El Hijo del Wagner Jr., Pagano, and Psycho Clown. Psycho Clown is amazing. He's funny. Now, keep the Psycho Circus away from WWE. I hate Psycho Circus. But Psycho Clown is fun. He's very fun. Pagano, he looks like a clown. He's more a juggalo than a clown. And he's more of these deathmatch guys. You know, he's not going to do deathmatch shit in this match, I can tell you that. But he's kind of like a extreme hardcore wrestler. And El Hijo del Wagner Jr. he's pretty damn good. You know, I've seen a little bit of him. I didn't watch him in Japan, but I have seen what he does in Mexico. I like this guy. WWE tried to sign him before they bought AAA and ended up getting him anyway. And like, oh, you don't want to sign directly with us. Okay, we'll just buy the company you work for. It ought to be a really fun match. It's the first match announced on the Worlds Collide show. A lot of people seem to be very excited about it, mainly because Psycho Clown is going to be on a WWE product. And he's going to be a pretty big draw for that area. Because it's going to be a heavily Hispanic area. So, Psycho Clown is a pretty big star in Mexico. He's not as big as Mystico, but he's a pretty fucking big star. And him making a WWE debut on a WWE stage, that's going to be huge. This might end up being the main event, if we're being honest, because of Psycho Clown. And purely because of Psycho Clown. Now, El Hijo del Wagner Jr. is a big star too, but I think the idea of Psycho Clown in WWE is going to be a huge draw. So it ought to be fun. It's the first match announced, which tells me it's probably going to be one of the more important matches announced. We'll see if Alberto makes the card. Everybody keeps wondering about if Alberto is going to be there. They're doing a TV taping before Worlds Collide. And Alberto is going to be wrestling El Hijo del Vikingo for the AAA Mega title. We don't know if WWE is going to switch that belt at that show before Worlds Collide. We don't know. But it's looking like that might happen. On that same show, La Hydra will be defending her title too. So all the people who we've been asking questions about whether WWE is going to bring these people in. The WWE are having AAA defend their titles on May the 31st. So it's entirely possible that we're going to get answers to all of these questions in like a week or so about whether these people are going to be brought in to WWE or not. Because they could all lose and we don't have to deal with any of them. So we'll have to see. Because they do like Vikingo in WWE. And he's a AAA guy. But they don't like Alberto. So we'll see what happens with Alberto. The saga of Alberto Del Rio in WWE continues. To a lesser degree, La Hydra is not liked by Stephanie Vaquera. So we'll see what happens there. Anyway, Smackdown. It was boring. The Wyatt 6 reveal was okay. I shrugged at it mostly. It didn't move me. You know, it's just a way of getting them on the show, I guess, and getting them involved with something. But again, none of the top stars. This is like over a month of SmackDown with almost none of the top stars showing up, and you get overloaded with mid-carders. And even though sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that's not bad. You need to do interesting things with the mid-carders. And they're not doing it. The women's U.S. title has so much potential because Chelsea has so much personality. And Zelina can talk. and they're not doing anything there. The Intercontinental, well, not the Intercontinental, the U.S. title is on Jacob Fatu, who could be having fun matches, and he is, but there could be more to him than just standing around with Solo. The tag team titles are starting to heat up. They're actually starting to do something different there. And Tiffany Stratton, well, she's just standing around calling women old. There's no new contender for Tiffany, even though that's probably what Bianca's going to do when she shows up. And they're probably going to build to a Bianca Belair Tiffany Stratton match. And I'll bite my lip thinking about that, because that could be fun. Other than that, this show is nothing special. Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.